You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, one of the things that we do want to talk about now deals with Biden and what their plans are, and that has to do with various nominations. He's nominated longtime diplomat Linda Thomas Greenfield as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. During the Obama administration, Thomas Greenfield served as the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, and from 2008 to 2012, she served as the U.S. Ambassador to Liberia. Thomas Greenfield was born in Baker, Louisiana in the early 1950s, where she attended segregated schools. She said growing up, the KKK would visit her town and burn a cross in someone's yard every weekend. She's also encountered racism during her years attending Louisiana State University, where David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, was also a student there at the time. Now, shortly after the announcement was made, Thomas Greenfield tweeted, "My mother taught me to lead with the power of kindness and compassion to make the world a better place. I've carried that lesson with me throughout my career in foreign service, and if confirmed, will do the same as ambassador to the United Nations." Thomas Greenfield is just one of several black women who have either been nominated or appointed to positions within the Biden administration. Now, one of those also will be working in legislative affairs. We're going to show her, get her name and photo in just a second. But the question is, are black women expecting more? Melanie Campbell, she's Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, also with the Black Women's Roundtable. Melanie, I've been hearing grumblings from sisters who are not happy so far with this initial rollout from the Biden campaign. Now, cabinet positions are totally separate from staff positions. And when you look at, he made the announcement, Congress Cedric Richmond, Office of Public Engagement. He's named some of his deputy chiefs of staff, his chief of staff, also the folks who are going to be over the legislative affairs, the political office. One sister who's a deputy, but folks are saying, we better see a lot more sisters in this White House. Just your thoughts.
We do have that expectation. I would say that I think Cedric Richmond, Congressman Richmond, is definitely someone who has a lived experience. That he brings not just his legislative experience, but he brings lived experience as an African American. I think that's a great choice, as well as Linda Thomas Greenfield, both Louisiana, by the way. So some Southerners. So I think that's a really good thing. But every woman that Black women I've spoken with, including myself, we do have expectations. We are working to the Black Women's Roundtable to submit recommendations. I know that you have Power Rising and Joint Center for Political Economic Studies, Win with Black Women, and other organizations that are making recommendations to the administration. And so we will continue to do that. And as we know, they made those announcements for these national security positions. There are 15 statutory positions. We do know for sure that we have one vice president in Senator Kamala Harris, who is a part of as well as the cabinet. But yes, we have expectations to see more.
One of the folks we're also talking about, go to my iPad, please, Shawanza Goff. She was named Deputy Director of the White House Office of Legislative Affairs. She, of course, served as the floor director for the House under Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. She was the first black woman to hold that position. She determined which bills came to the House floor, also set the legislative schedule, and helped craft the overall House Democratic agenda. She is from Virginia, is a graduate of the University of Tennessee and American University. And again, that's one of those positions as well that folks are looking at. But again, look, when you start talking about deputies, folks are like, okay, we get that. But again, what I'm hearing from sisters is that, hey, we want to see people who are running departments. And so we're going to be waiting here.
I think, really looking for cabinet positions. We know, at least understanding, following it, I'm not in the room. I'm not in the transition team room, Biden-Harris transition team, but just our understanding of the Congresswoman Marsha Fudge is a name that's been floating around to be the Secretary of Agriculture. I participated in a letter that we did submit to the Biden-Harris with a recommendation from 24 primarily Black women-led organizations collectively, but also individually organizations are submitting those names. So the key is to is that we know what Black women did, we know the role we played, and so we are stepping boldly into asking for what we want. Can't make Vice President-elect do anything, but I think he recognizes that the Black community, Black women and Black men, helped get him in there, but he knows that Black women gave 90% of our vote, and we were clear about we want to see ourselves in this administration. We have the VP elect for sure, and also there are several other positions that I believe that we should see more, and many Black women that I know that I work with through the Black Women's Roundtable and other organizations have those expectations. So the process has started. It's not over, and we're going to continue to engage. As I stated before, many of our organizations are putting in recommendations, and so we have high expectations to see more.
And the thing here is because this is what we are going to be looking for here, Melanie. We're looking to see African Americans all throughout the administration, and so what people have to understand is that you have what I call really three levels. You have cabinet positions. And yes, what you saw, national security apparatus, we get that, Secretary of State, United Nations, those positions. Then you get your cabinet position, but then you get to your staff positions that are actually within the White House. So if John Kerry was named, the czar when it comes to climate, when you talk about who heads the personnel office, who heads the Office of Management and Budget, there's an African-American male who's rumored to get that, who head White House Council of Economic Advisors. But below that, though, is what we also begin to look at is, when you talk about the cabinets, who's the number two? Who's the chief of staff? Those positions as well, because that's where the reality is what people don't understand about how federal government works. The actual power in cabinet positions is really the number two. Because the number two actually really runs the agency. And so we're looking at, what we're looking for is not just a couple of high-profile big positions, but the big positions, the next level, and then that level below and level below.
Right. And Roland, there's 4,000 plus positions that need to be filled. This current administration did not bode well for a functioning federal government. There are so many positions they didn't fill, or they put in people temporarily. There is a rebuilding. So when President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris say, build back better, right? There's a whole lot of building back that has to be done. And for someone who, I didn't work in federal government, but I was appointee for, a local mayor, Maynard Jackson, and understand there are so many positions that have to be filled. And if we're talking about for the long term, then those are succession planning opportunities so that folks are in position because they would get the experience. So what I recommend for folks to do, go on that Biden-Harris transition team website, find out what's going on with it, connect with folks and get your see if there's a position that you may be qualified for. There are so many regional offices that are based all across the country. Not all the jobs are in Washington, D.C. They're right there in your local community. The federal government is in your local community. Your Social Security office is in your local community. And so there are a lot of positions. Of course, a lot of those are not necessarily appointee positions, but there are so many jobs. And even those what you call permanent jobs that are in the government were not filled. So there's a lot of opportunity, I believe, in the federal government, and folks should look at that as a public service opportunity and employment opportunity.
All right, then, Melanie Campbell, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Avis Jones-DeWeaver, I want to start with you. Also, people don't realize when we talk about these positions, we're also thinking about what happens when they leave the White House. Because what happens is these are the people who get hired in corporate America. These are people who get hired on K Street, who then are able to hire other people. And so when you're a senior level person in the White House, there are senior level positions that are available to you once you leave. If black folks are only in the lower level or the junior positions, then you don't get the senior level positions. And now we're talking about larger jobs, stock options. I mean, all these other different things that go along with being a major executive in the administration.
Absolutely. So, what happens with where you are in the White House, you're exactly right, not only impacts what you can do to make sure that the focus is encompassing the concerns of our community, which is very important. But as you mentioned, there are sort of reverberating effects that happens in terms of the power that you have access to once that particular administration is over. And so when we don't find Black people in leadership in administrations, then it has these reverberating effects such that after that administration is over, the spoils and others don't include us, and therefore can't trickle down to more of us. It is a sad thing. I feel like Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black, okay? We need to have more Black people that are appointed specifically at cabinet level positions, number one, and also throughout this administration in senior level positions, so that we can make sure that we are seen on issues that impact our community, which quite frankly is every issue, and our specific slant is considered, but also such that those people have futures coming out of that administration, because even the best case scenario, they'll just be there 8 years, right? That could have major impacts on the rest of the community.
Mustafa, I love these idiots who love commenting, such as Stefan Boykin on YouTube. So let me get this straight. As being a Black woman or Black in general, the only qualifier for the best nominee for these positions, just food for thought. But you don't say that about the white folks who have been appointed. See, Mustafa, here's the deal. The reason we talk about this here, because the reason we don't use a dumbass qualifier, qualified, is because we already assume the people who are being considered are qualified. So it's stupid, Stefan, to say, well, how do you know they're actually being qualified? Because if you ain't qualified, you're not on the list. This ain't the Trump folk who were picked for positions. This is a different administration picking people. So we automatically assume those who are being considered are qualified. But whenever white folks are being named, no one brings up qualified as part of the conversation.
Oh, without a doubt. They always try and throw these additional hurdles on people. I've seen it for decades now. There's a strong vetting process. So as was shared, 4,000 political appointees, 1,200 of them actually have to go through Senate confirmation, depending on what the job is. And folks are all qualified. The problem has always been that even though Black folks were qualified, they weren't getting the opportunities. And if they did get those opportunities, our policy would look markedly different than it has over the years, because you have someone who has both that book knowledge, but they also understand the impacts that are happening on the ground. And our government is supposed to be representative of the people. And what that means is that it actually has to really support, it really has to understand, it has to be able to move those resources to the places in a way that actually matter. And I'll just leave on this last point. When you have one of these positions, in some instances, you are in charge of millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars. So we can make sure that those resources, those tax dollars, are actually finally making it to the communities that need them the most, and also that they're actually being formulated in a way that actually is transformative if we truly embrace, all these various folks that have so many amazing skills.
And Rena, look, as Mustafa said, this is power. This is in control of billions of dollars in federal resources. And so who sits in those positions also helps determine regulations. It helps determine lots of different things. And so it matters who sits in these positions.
Yeah, and our country is what it is today because of the people that have sat in the positions before now. Anything we are experiencing now from the federal government, whatever we feel isn't addressed properly, look at the people making the decisions. And this is why back in 2017, I set out and I created an organization to help support more women run for political office as well as be considered for political appointments. And that was really in line with what I've been seeing to be a problem ever since I left Capitol Hill back in 2011, is that there are just not enough people in the ranks of U.S. government, whether you're looking even in the state houses, state to state. You see such a dearth of truly a reflective democracy. We don't have that, and we need it in the positions of power. And so people often think it's the member of Congress that makes the decisions, but like you said earlier, it's the number twos often in the offices. And so when I learned recently of an organization called Inclusive America, it's a nonprofit organization. I had a call with their founder. He told me, he said, I was there in the executive branch, and he was there during Obama's time. He said, I looked around and I looked at the people making the decisions, and these are older white men largely. And this is a white man telling me this. And so he helped start this organization really on that pledge for diversity bent. And that is a really important thing. When people who are not people of color, not part of the BIPOC community, really can see that and start to be allies, that's what we need. Because right now, one really alarming stat I learned from them is that only 17.4% of senior ranked executive positions in our government are staffed by minorities.
There you go.
Now, that tells you everything you need to know. And it's perfect. It's a layup for your argument earlier. The government should reflect the American people at senior levels, not just junior or mid-level ones. We need them in senior roles. And so part of the work, I think, of these great nonprofit organizations across the country that are sort of waking and taking the call on really what needs to change for our government to really look more like the country and perhaps avoid what we saw these past few years. I was really encouraged when I saw Biden's list of first unveiling of people he was nominating to be part of his administration, and I didn't see a single last name Biden.
Got it.
I mean, that's such a change already, but that should not be the bar. That is too low of a bar. We need to swing the pendulum back, and I fully believe this administration will really answer that call, because look at what they did with their COVID task force already. The co-chair there is a brilliant doctor, Nunez Matthews, I believe is her name, and just incredible appointments already. So we should feel encouraged. And yes, we always want the most qualified person, but look, if they're on the short list, let's advocate for them.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.